Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shree Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Harir Nama Harir Namaiva Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva Gatir Anyatha. Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. On the full moon evening of the month of Falguna, when Lord Caitanya took birth, coincidentally there was also a lunar eclipse. In jubilation, everyone was chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hari, Hari. And Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then appeared, after first causing the appearance of the holy name. At his birth, in his childhood, and in his early and later boyhood, as well as in his youth, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, under different pleas, used to induce people to chant the holy name of Hari, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In his childhood, when Lord Caitanya was crying, he would stop immediately upon hearing the holy names of Krishna and Hari. All the friendly ladies who came to see the child would thus chant the holy names, Hari, Hari, and then Lord Caitanya would cry. His childhood lasted until the date of the beginning of his education, and his age from the end of his childhood until he married is called Palganda. After his marriage, his youth began, and in his youth, Lord Caitanya induced everyone to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra anywhere and everywhere. During his Palganda age, Lord Caitanya became a serious student and also taught disciples. In this way, Lord Caitanya used to explain the holy name of Krishna everywhere. When teaching a course in grammar, Vyakarana, and explaining it with notes, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu taught his disciples about the glories of Lord Krishna. All his explanations culminated in Krishna, and his disciples would understand them very easily. Thus, Lord Caitanya's influence was indeed wonderful. When Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu was a student, he asked whoever he met to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In this way, he inundated the whole town of Navadvip with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Just prior to his youthful life, Lord Caitanya began the Sankirtan movement. Day and night, Lord Caitanya used to dance in ecstasy with his devotees. The Sankirtan movement went on from one part of the town to another, and as Lord Caitanya wandered everywhere performing kirtan. In this way, Lord Caitanya inundated the whole world by distributing love of Godhead. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu lived in the Navadvip area for 24 years and induced every person to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thus merge in love of Krishna. For his remaining 24 years, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, after accepting the renounced order of life, stayed at Jagannath Puri with his devotees. To fulfill a particular desire within his mind, Lord Krishna, Vrajendra Kumar, decided to descend on this planet after mature contemplation. Lord Krishna therefore first allowed his families of superiors to descend to earth. Lord Krishna, Vrajendra Kumar, first caused countless devotees to appear, and at last Lord Caitanya himself appeared. Before the appearance of Lord Caitanya, all the devotees of Navadvip used to gather in the house of Advaita Acharya. In these meetings of the Vaishnavas, Advaita Acharya used to recite Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, decrying the paths of philosophical speculation and fruitive activity, thus establishing the super excellence of devotional service. In all the revealed scriptures of Vedic culture, devotional service to Lord Krishna is explained throughout. Therefore, devotees of Lord Krishna do not recognize the process of philosophical speculation, mystic yoga, unnecessary austerity, and so-called religious rituals. The devotees do not accept any process but devotional service. In the house of Advaita Acharya, all the devotees took pleasure in always talking of Krishna, always worshiping Krishna, and always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu felt pained to see all the people without Krishna consciousness and simply merging in material sense enjoyment. Seeing the condition of the world, Advaita Acharya began to think seriously of how all these people could be delivered from the clutches of Maya. Srila Advaita Acharya thus thought, if Krishna himself appears in order to distribute the cult of devotional service, then only will liberation be possible for all these people. With this consideration, Advaita Acharya Prabhu, promising to cause Lord Krishna to descend, began to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with tulsi leaves and the water of the Ganges. By loud cries, Advaita Acharya invited Krishna to appear, and this repeated invitation attracted Lord Krishna to descend. Before the birth of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, 8 daughters took birth one after another from the womb of Sachi Mata, the wife of Jagannath Mishra. But just after their birth, they all died. Jagannath Mishra was very unhappy at the death of his children one after another. Therefore, desiring a son, Jagannath Mishra worshipped the lotus feet of Vishnu. After this, Jagannath Mishra got a son of the name Vishvarupa, who was most powerful and highly qualified because he was an incarnation of Lord Baladev himself. Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata, having thus gotten Vishvarupa as their son, were very pleased within their minds, and because of their pleasure, they specifically began to serve the lotus feet of Govinda. Then, in the month of January, Lord Krishna entered the bodies of both Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata. Jagannath Mishra then said to his wife, "Oh, I see wonderful things, and your body is effulgent. It appears as if the goddess of fortune were now staying personally in our home. For anywhere and everywhere I go, all people offer me respect. Why, even without my asking, they voluntarily give me riches, clothing, and paddy. Sachimata told her husband, "Yes, I also see wonderfully brilliant human beings appearing in outer space as if offering prayers." Jagannath Mishra then replied, "Why, in a dream, I saw the effulgent abode of the Lord enter my heart, and from my heart it entered your heart. I therefore understand that a great personality will soon take birth." So after this conversation, both husband and wife were very jubilant, and together they rendered service to the household Shalagram Shila. In this way, the pregnancy approached its 13th month, and still there was no sign of the delivery of the child. Thus, Jagannath Mishra became greatly apprehensive. Nilambara Chakravarti, the grandfather of Lord Caitanya, then did an astrological calculation, and he said that in this very month, taking advantage of an auspicious moment, the child would take birth. Thus, in the month of Falguna, in the evening of the full moon day, the desired auspicious moment arrived. And according to the Jyotir Veda, or Vedic astrology, the auspicious birth moment is described as follows. The moon was in Leo, the figure of the lion in the zodiac. Leo was the ascendant, and several planets were strongly positioned, and the Shadvarga and Ashtavarga showed all auspicious influences. So when the spotless moon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became visible, what then would be the new need for a full moon of black marks upon its body? Considering this, Rahu, the black planet, covered the full moon, and immediately vibrations of Krishna, Krishna, Hari, Hari inundated the three worlds. All people thus chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra during the lunar eclipse, and their minds were struck with wonder. And when the whole world was thus chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who was now in the form of Gaur Hari, he invented himself on this earth. The whole world was pleased with Gaura Hari. And while the Hindus chanted the holy name of Krishna, the non-Hindus, especially the Muslims, jokingly imitated their words. While all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari upon earth, even in the heavenly planets, dancing and music were going on, for the demigods were very curious. In this atmosphere, all the 10 directions became jubilant, as did the waves of the rivers. Moreover, all beings moving and non-moving were overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. Thus, by his causeless mercy, the full moon, Gaura Hari, rose in the district of Nadia, which is compared to Udayagiri, where the sun first becomes visible. Lord Chaitanya's rising in the sky dissipated the darkness of sinful life, and thus the three worlds became joyful and chanted the holy name of the Lord. At that time, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, in his own house at Shantipur, was dancing in a pleasing mood. Taking Haridas Thakur with him, Advaita Acharya danced and loudly chanted Hare Krishna. But why they were dancing, no one could understand. Seeing the lunar eclipse and laughing, Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur immediately went to the bank of the Ganges and bathed in the river in great jubilation. Taking advantage of the occasion of the lunar eclipse, Advaita Acharya, by his mental strength, distributed various types of charity to the Brahmanas. And when he saw that the whole world was jubilant, Haridas Thakur, his mind astonished, directly and indirectly expressed himself to Advaita Acharya. "O Prabhu, your dancing and distributing charity are very pleasing to me. Why, I can understand that there is some special purpose in these actions." Meanwhile, Chandrasekhar and Srivas Thakur were overwhelmed with joy, and immediately they went to the bank of the Ganges to bathe in her waters. Their minds full of happiness, they chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and gave charity by mental strength. In this way, all the devotees, wherever they were situated, in every city, in every country, danced, performed Sankirtan, and gave charity by mental strength, all on the plea of the lunar eclipse, their minds being overwhelmed with joy. All sorts of respectable Brahmin gentlemen and ladies, carrying plates filled with various gifts, came with their presentations. Seeing the newborn child, whose form resembled natural glaring gold, all of them happily offered their blessings. Dressing themselves as the wives of Brahmanas, all kinds of celestial ladies, including the wives of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Nrsimhadev, King Indra, and Vashishta Muni, along with Rambha, the dancing girl of heaven, all came to Nadia with various varieties of gifts. In outer space, all the demigods, including the inhabitants of Gandharva Loka, Siddha Loka, and Charana Loka, offered their prayers and danced to the accompaniment of music, songs, and the beating of drums. Similarly, in Navadvip city, all the professional dancers, musicians, and blessers gathered together, dancing in great jubilation. No one could understand who was coming and who was going, who was dancing and who was singing, nor could they understand each other's language. And yet, all unhappiness and lamentation were immediately dissipated, and people became jubilant. Thus, Jagannath Mishra was also overwhelmed with joy. Chandrasekhar Acharya and Srivas Thakur both came to Jagannath Mishra and drew his attention in various ways. They performed the ritualistic ceremonies prescribed at the time of birth according to religious principles. And Jagannath Mishra also gave varieties of charity. Whatever riches Jagannath Mishra collected in the form of gifts and presentations, and whatever he had in his house, he distributed among the Brahmanas, professional singers, dancers, bhattas, and the poor. Jagannath Mishra honored them all by giving them riches in charity. The wife of Srivas Thakur, whose name was Malini, accompanied by the wife of Chandrasekhar and other ladies, came there in happiness to worship baby with paraphernalia such as vermilion, turmeric, oil, fused rice, bananas, and coconuts. One day, shortly after Caitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Acharya's wife, whose name was Sita Devi, and she is worshipable by the whole world, took her husband's permission and went to see that topmost child with all kinds of gifts and presentations. She brought different kinds of golden ornaments, including armlets, necklaces, anklets, and bangles for the hands. There were also tiger nails set in gold, waist decorations of silk and lace, ornaments for the hands and legs, nicely printed silk saris, and the child's garment, also made of silk. Many other riches, including gold and silver coins, were also presented to the child. Riding in a palanquin covered with cloth and accompanied by maidservants, Sita Thakurani came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, bringing with her many auspicious articles, such as fresh grass, paddy, gorochana, turmeric, kumkum, and sandalwood. All these presentations filled a large basket. And when Sita Thakurani came to the house of Shachi Devi, bringing with her many kinds of eatables, dresses, and other gifts, she was astonished to see the newborn child, for she appreciated that except for a difference in color, the child was directly Krishna of Goloka himself. Seeing the transcendental bodily effulgence of the child, each of his nicely constructed limbs full of auspicious signs and resembling a form of gold, Sita Thakurani was very pleased, and because of her maternal affection, she felt as if her heart were melting. She thus blessed the newborn child by placing fresh grass and paddy on his head, and then she blessed him. May you be blessed with long duration of life. But, being afraid of ghosts and witches, she gave the child the name Nimai. On the day the mother and son bathed and left the maternity home, Sita Thakurani gave them all kinds of ornaments and garments, and then also honored Jagannath Mishra. Then, Sita Thakurani, being honored by Mother Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, was greatly happy within her mind, and thus she returned home. In this way, Mother Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, having obtained a son who was the husband of the goddess of fortune, had all their desires fulfilled. Their house was always filled with riches and grains. As they saw the beloved body of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, day after day, their pleasure increased. Jagannath Mishra was an ideal Vaishnava. He was peaceful, restrained in sense gratification, pure and controlled. Therefore, he had no desire to enjoy material opulence. Whatever money came because of the influence of his transcendental son, Jagannath Mishra gave it away in charity to the Brahmanas for the satisfaction of Vishnu. After calculating the birth moment of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Nilambara Chakravarti privately said to Jagannath Mishra that he indeed saw all the different symptoms of a great personality in both the body and birth moment of the child. Thus, he could understand that in the future, this child would deliver all the three worlds. In this way, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his causeless mercy, made his advent in the house of Sachi Devi. Lord Caitanya is very merciful to anyone who hears this narration of his birth, and thus such a person attains the lotus feet of Lord Caitanya. So this is why I have selected this reading. I'm going to read it again so that you can appreciate what you just witnessed. Here it is. Lord Caitanya is very merciful to anyone who hears this narration of his birth, and thus such a person attains the lotus feet of Lord Caitanya. Anyone who attains a human body but does not take to the cult of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled in his or her opportunity. Amritaduni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If after getting a human body, one drinks the water instead of a poison pit of material happiness, it would have been better for one not to have lived, but to have died long ago. In his first childhood pastimes, Lord Caitanya turned upside down while lying on his bed, and thus showing his parents the marks of his lotus feet. When Lord Caitanya tried to walk, in his small footprints, the specific marks of Lord Vishnu were visible, namely, flag, thunderbolt, conch shell, disc, fish. Seeing all these marks, neither his father nor mother could understand whose footprints they were. Thus, struck with wonder, they could not understand how those marks could be possible in their home. Jagannath Mishra said, "Certainly, child Krishna is with the Shalagram Shila. Taking his childhood form, he must be playing within the room." And while Mother Sachi and Jagannath Mishra were talking, child Nimai woke up and began to cry. And Mother Sachi took Nimai on her lap and allowed Nimai to suck her breast. And while Mother Sachi was feeding Nimai from her breast, she indeed saw on his lotus feet all the marks which were visible on the floor of the room. She thus called for Jagannath Mishra. And when Jagannath Mishra saw the wonderful marks on the soul of his son, he became very joyful and privately called for Nilambara Chakravarti. And when Nilambara Chakravarti saw those marks, he smilingly said, "Oh, yes, formerly I had ascertained all this by astrological calculation and noted it down in writing. For there are 32 bodily marks that symptomize a great personality, and I see all those marks on the body of this child. 5 of his bodily parts are large, 5 are fine, 7 reddish, 6 raised, 3 small, 3 broad, and 3 grave. Why, this baby has all the symptoms of Lord Narayana on his palms and soles. This baby will be able to deliver all the 3 worlds. This child will preach the Vaishnava cult and deliver both his maternal and paternal families. So I propose to perform a name-giving ceremony, and we should observe a festival and call for the Brahmanas, because today is very auspicious. In the future, this child will protect and maintain all the world. So for this reason, he is to be called Vishvambara." So far, we have heard several names. We have heard, of course, Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Then we heard Gaura Hari. Then we heard Nimai. And now we've heard another name, Vishvambara. After hearing Nilambara Chakravarti's prediction, Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra observed the name-giving festival in great joy inviting all the brahmanas and their wives. After some days, Lord Caitanya began to crawl on his knees, and Lord Caitanya caused various wonderful things to be seen. Lord Caitanya caused all the ladies to chant the holy names of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on the plea of his crying. And then, while these ladies chanted, Lord Caitanya would smile. After some days, Lord Caitanya began to move his legs and walk. Lord Caitanya mixed with other children and exhibited various sports. One day, while Lord Caitanya was enjoying his playful sports with the other little children, Mother Sachi brought a dish filled with fused rice and sweetmeats, asking the child to sit down and eat them. But when she returned to her household duties, the child hid from his mother and began to eat dirt instead. Seeing this, Mother Sachi hastily returned and exclaimed, "What is this? What is this?" Then she snatched the dirt from the hands of Lord Caitanya and inquired why he was eating dirt. Crying, the child inquired from his mother, "Why are you angry? You have already given me dirt to eat. What is my fault? Fused rice, sweetmeats, and all other eatables are but transformations of dirt. This is dirt, that is dirt. Please consider, what is the difference between them? This body is also a transformation of dirt, and the eatables are also a transformation of dirt. Please reflect upon this. You are blaming me without consideration. So what can I say?" Astonished that Lord Caitanya was speaking Mayavad philosophy, Mother Sachi replied, "Who has taught you this philosophical speculation that justifies eating dirt? My dear boy, if we eat earth transformed into grain, then our body is nourished and it becomes strong. But if we eat dirt in its crude state, then the body becomes diseased instead of nourished, and thus it is destroyed. In a water pot, which is also a transformation of dirt, I can bring water very easily. But if I pour water on the lump of dirt, the lump would soak up the water, and my labor would be useless." After hearing this, Lord Caitanya replied to his mother, "Why did you conceal self-realization by not teaching me this practical philosophy in the beginning? Now that I can understand this philosophy, no more shall I eat dirt, for whenever I am hungry, I shall suck your breast and drink your breast milk." And after saying this, Lord Caitanya, smiling slightly, climbed on the lap of his mother and sucked her breast. Thus, under various excuses, Lord Caitanya exhibited his opulences as much as possible in his childhood. And later, after exhibiting such opulences, he hid himself. On one occasion, Lord Caitanya ate the food of a Brahmana guest 3 times, and later, in confidence, Lord Caitanya delivered that Brahmana from material engagement. And his childhood, Lord Caitanya was taken away by 2 thieves outside his home. Lord Caitanya, however, got up on the shoulders of the thieves, and while they were thinking that they were safely carrying the child in order to rob his ornaments, Lord Caitanya misled them, and thus instead of going to their own homes, the thieves came back to the home of Jagannath Mishra. As usual for small children, Lord Caitanya learned to play, and with his playmates, Lord Caitanya went to the houses of neighboring friends stealing their eatables and eating them. Sometimes the children fought amongst themselves. All the children lodged complaints with Sachimata about Lord Chaitanya's fighting with them and stealing from the neighbors' houses. Therefore, sometimes she used to chastise or rebuke her son. "Why do you steal others' things? Why do you beat the other children? Why do you go inside others' houses? What do you not have in your own house?" Thus, rebuked by his mother, Lord Chaitanya would go in anger to a room and break all the pots within it. Then, Sachimata would take her son on her lap and pacify him, and Lord Chaitanya would be very much ashamed, admitting his faults. Once, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised his mother with his soft hand, and his mother pretended to faint. Seeing this, Lord Chaitanya began to cry. The neighboring ladies told him, "Dear child, please bring a coconut from somewhere. Then your mother will be cured." Lord Chaitanya then went outside the house and immediately brought 2 coconuts. All the ladies were astonished to see such wonderful activities. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya would go with other children to bathe in the Ganges, and the neighboring girls would also come there to worship various demigods. When the girls engaged in worshiping different demigods, after bathing in the Ganges, the young Lord Chaitanya would come there and sit down among them. Addressing the girls, Lord Chaitanya would say, "Worship me, and I shall give you all good husbands and good benedictions, for the Ganges and the goddess Durga are my maidservants. So what to speak of other demigods? Even Lord Shiva is my servant." Without the permission of the girls, Lord Chaitanya would take the sandalwood pulp and smear it upon his own body. He would put the flower garlands on his neck, and he would snatch and eat all the offerings of sweetmeats, rice, and bananas. All the girls became very angry for this behavior of Lord Chaitanya. "Dear Nimai, you are just like our brother in our village relationship. Therefore, it does not behoove you to act like this. Do not take our paraphernalia for worship of the demigods. Don't create a disturbance in this way." Oh, my dear sisters, I give you the benediction that your husbands will be very handsome. They will be learned, clever, and young, and possess abundant wealth and rice. And not only that, but you will each have 7 sons who will all live long lives, and they will be very intelligent. Hearing this benediction from Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all the girls were inwardly very happy. But externally, as is natural for girls, they rebuked Lord Chaitanya under the pretense of anger. And when some of the girls fled, Lord Chaitanya called them in anger and advised them, "If you are miserly and do not give me the offerings, then every one of you will have an old husband with at least 4 co-wives." Hearing this supposed curse by Lord Chaitanya, the girls, considering what Lord Chaitanya might know something uncommon or might be empowered by demigods, the girls were afraid that his curse might be effective. The girls then brought the offerings before Lord Chaitanya, who ate them all and blessed the girls to their satisfaction. When this cunning behavior of Lord Caitanya with the girls became known to the people in general, it did not create misunderstandings among them. Rather, they enjoyed happiness in these dealings. So now we come to the final part of my class. One day, a girl of the name Lakshmi, daughter of Vallabha Acharya, came to the bank of the Ganges to take bath in the river and worship the demigods. Seeing Lakshmi Devi, Lord Caitanya became attached to her, and Lakshmi, upon seeing Lord Caitanya, felt great satisfaction within her mind. Their natural love for each other awakened, and although it was covered by childhood emotions, it became apparent that they were mutually attracted. They both enjoyed natural pleasure in seeing each other, and under the pretext of demigod worship, they manifested their feelings. Lord Caitanya told Lakshmi, "Just worship me, for I am the Supreme Lord. If you worship me, certainly you will get the benediction you desire." Upon hearing the order of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Lakshmi immediately worshipped him, offering sandalwood pulp and flowers for his body, garlanding him with malika flowers, and offering prayers. Being worshipped by Lakshmi, Lord Caitanya began to smile. He recited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and so accepted the emotion Lakshmi expressed. "My dear gopis, I accept your desire to have me as your husband and thus worship me. I wish your desire to be fulfilled because it deserves to be so." So after thus expressing their feelings to each other, Lord Caitanya and Lakshmi returned home. Who can understand the grave pastimes of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I want to thank ISKCON of Bergen for giving me this wonderful opportunity to speak on the glories of Lord Caitanya on this great Gaura Purnima Day 2021. I'm very much humbled and honored, and I would like to give a benediction to all the devotees in attendance. I bless you all as we got blessed by Krishnadas Kaviraj himself earlier in the lecture. May Krishna bless you, protect you, and maintain you all. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Om Tat Sat.